Hi, this is Philip Anthony Albertelli, and welcome once again to The Week in Doubt, a podcast for atheists, agnostics, and whoever. This is episode 33. Before we get started, I'd like to thank Dave Gersom for liking the Week in Doubt Facebook page. And also, I'd like to plug the latest episode of C-Web Sunday School. And I believe it's this Sunday's episode that will focus on the roundtable discussion I mentioned previously. And that's where myself, Chris Weber from C-Web Sunday School, and two other, for the sake of simplicity, atheist podcasters got together and had a roundtable discussion about freedom of speech. And I think that should have been available on iTunes as of this past Sunday. Well, yesterday. It's Monday, October the 8th, as I record this. So that should be interesting if you want to check that out. And I'm a little nervous because I myself haven't listened back to the entire discussion yet. So I'm not sure how well I handle myself. But that should be available on iTunes if you want to check that out. Once again, that's C-Web Sunday School. And the other podcasters who participated are Steve, who's one of the hosts of a Matter of Doubt podcast, and a podcaster who likes to simply go by Dumbass. And ironically, he's not dumb at all. He's actually a pretty bright guy. And he's the host of, I believe it's a Dumbass's Guide to Knowledge, and also the Invisible Sky Monster podcast. So you can check those out as well if you want. So I was trying to decide on a topic for this episode, and I wasn't sure what I was going to focus on. Then I saw an article in the HuffPost religion section, and it was about one of Fred Phelps' children. And if you don't know who Fred Phelps is, he's the notorious leader of the Westboro Baptist Church. They're an independent Baptist church known for their extreme views and hate speech. And I'm not sure if hate speech is a legal term, so I might want to add that caveat, a disclaimer, because I don't feel like getting sued. But they're known for their extreme fundamentalist views and their vulgar, defamatory remarks specifically towards homosexuals. You've probably seen on the news or on TV images of people gleefully holding multicolored signs that say God hates fags or thank God for dead soldiers. They're really, and I try to be adult while doing the show, and I try to contain myself and not be too insulting, but I'll say they're a disgusting organization. I just don't know how else to say it. And they're known for picketing the funerals of dead soldiers. And, but anyway, before I go on too much, I should say what I found heartening about the story about, Nate Phelps being the son of Fred Phelps, the leader of this controversial church, is I think he's the first member of that family I've really seen display any sense or humanity. And I guess from an early age, he had trouble with his father. And at the relatively young age of 18, he packed up some of his belongings, jumped in a car he had saved and scrounged money to get, and took off, never to return, I guess. And he's diametrically opposed to the views of his father and his church. And I think he may even be an LGBT advocate, I think, or works with a group who helps people who belong to that community. So I just found that really heartening, because whenever you see stories about the Westboro Baptist Church, or you see interviews with them, with the members, it makes you want to pull your hair out. It sickens you, because they seem to lack empathy and compassion. They seem to be filled with that religious kind of schadenfreude that I sometimes talk about on the show, where they seem to gleefully take joy in the fact that they believe they're the chosen few, they're the saved, and everyone else is going to be damned and burn. It's very odd, kind of sickening how they usually preach their hate with a broad smile on their face. Usually it's one of Fred Phelps's daughters that you see in the interviews. And she seems to have this permanent kind of sadistic grin while she goes on espousing her bigoted views. And, when you watch them in interviews, you wonder, who are these people? How'd they get this way? Do they possess any ounce of humanity at all? And to see a member of that family, Nate Phelps, speak, and he's just a normal, down the earth guy, who seems to completely get why people resent his family and their bigoted, hateful views. So it was just something, it was kind of a relief. There was something refreshing about seeing a member of that family who comport themselves with humanity and reason. And they are often described as a hate group, and they're monitored by groups such as the Anti-Defamation League and the Southern Poverty Law Center. And wow, I'm just reading a Wikipedia article right now, and according to this, its first public service was held on the afternoon of Sunday, November 27th, 1955. So that's kind of scary. So they've been around for quite some time. And as I was saying, they're a quote-unquote independent Baptist church, and in fairness to Baptists at large, they're not affiliated with any major Baptist conventions or associations. And according to this, the Baptist World Alliance and the Southern Baptist Convention have denounced the WBC, the Westboro Baptist Church, over the years. And here I'm quoting this Wikipedia article. Phelps and his family picket approximately 6 locations every day, including many in Topeka and some events farther afield. On Sundays, up to 15 churches may receive pickets. By their own count, WBC has picketed in all 50 states. The group carries out daily picketing in Topeka and travels nationally to picket the funerals of gay victims of murder, gay bashing, or people who have died from complications relating to AIDS. Other events related or peripherally related to gay people, Kansas City Chiefs football games, and live pop concerts. As of March 2009, the church claims to have participated in over 41,000 protests in over 650 cities since 1991. One of the Westboro's followers estimated that the church spends $250,000 a year on picketing. That's quite a lot of money to spend on hate. I wonder where they get it from. Here I'm continuing to quote, the pickets have resulted in several lawsuits. In 1995, Phelps Sr.'s eldest grandson, Benjamin Phelps, was convicted of assault and disorderly conduct after spitting upon the face of a passerby during a picket. And they've also done a lot of countersuits and filed suits of their own, I know. And here I'm quoting again. In the 1990s, the church won a series of lawsuits against the city of Topeka and Shawnee County for efforts taken to prevent or hinder WBC picketing, and was awarded approximately $200,000 in attorney's fees and costs associated with litigation. Well, maybe that's how they get some of their money. I don't know. Wow, now I'm scanning down a little, and it says here, in June 2007, Shirley Phelps Roper was arrested in Nebraska and charged with contributing to the delinquency of a minor. The arrest resulted from her allowing her 8-year-old son to step on the American flag during the demonstration, which is illegal under Nebraska law. The defense contends that the child's actions were protected speech and that the state law is unconstitutional. The prosecution claimed that the demonstration was not intended as political speech, but as an incitement to violence, and that Phelps Roper's conduct may also constitute child abuse. Prosecutors later dropped charges against Phelps Roper. On 2 occasions, the church accepted offers for radio airtime in exchange for canceling an announced protest. And I think, was it Howard Stern? I think it might have been Howard Stern who used to do that. Well, I know that members of the church used to go on the Howard Stern show back when I used to listen to him regularly. I'm not sure if it's Howard or another big-name radio host that used to, was it the Mike Gallagher show maybe? I remember someone used to give them airtime just in an attempt to keep them from engaging in their destructive behavior and picketing the funerals of vets or whatever. This is really weird. There's a whole section here on their anti-gay picketing. While being filmed by documentary filmmaker Louis Theroux, they hope I'm pronouncing that right, or maybe it's Lewis. They picketed a local appliance store because it sold Swedish vacuum cleaners, which the church viewed as supportive of gays because of Swedish prosecution of Aki Green, or I don't know how you pronounce that, A-K-E. I've never heard that name before. I almost said a pastor critical of homosexuality. The church has picketed or threatened to picket productions of The Laramie Project, a play based on the murder of Matthew Shepard, whose funeral they also picketed. On January 25th, 2004, Phelps picketed 5 churches, 3 Catholic and 2 Episcopalian, in the federal courthouse for what he said was their part in legitimizing same-sex marriages. In Iowa, a community response was to hold a counter-protest and a multi-faith service in the municipal auditorium. On January 15, 2006, Westboro members protested a memorial for 2006 Sago mine disaster victims, claiming that the mining accident was God's revenge against America for its tolerance of homosexuality. Then there's a section further down on the funeral pickets. And I'm quoting again, in July 2005, the Westboro Baptist Church declared its intention to picket the memorial service of Carrie French in Boise, Idaho. French, 19, was killed on June 5th in Kirkuk, Iraq, where she served as an ammunition specialist with the 116th Brigade Combat Team's 145th Support Battalion. Phelps Sr. said, "Our attitude toward what's happening with the war is the Lord is punishing this evil nation for abandoning all moral imperatives that are worth a dime." In 2006, Westboro picketed with banners saying God hates fags and thank God for dead soldiers at the Westminster, Maryland funeral of Matthew Snyder, a U.S. Marine who was also killed in Iraq. Ruling on a subsequent lawsuit filed by Snyder's father, Albert Snyder, the U.S. Supreme Court decided 8-1 that Westboro's actions constituted protected free speech. I think that's too bad. I think there should be, and it's odd maybe for me to say, it's kind of ironic because I participated recently in that roundtable on free speech, and I usually side on freedom of speech, but I think just out of a sense of decency, maybe there should be some laws about picketing funerals, not to mention the funerals of servicemen who were killed in the line of duty. And you can kind of see that schadenfreude I'm talking about, that German term I like to throw around for taking joy in the suffering of others, where it seems to be not enough for them to hold their own personal beliefs. Maybe they don't agree with homosexuality, as is the case with a lot of Christians. And I can definitely understand if someone's anti-war. Although, to me, it seems like it's not so much that they're anti-war, that they're pro-raining on other people's parades. They seem to get some kind of sadistic joy out of picketing funerals and other events. But I think that's enough about the Westboro Baptist Church. I think all you really need to know about them to get a proper idea of what they're all about is the fact that they picket things like the funerals of vets and the funerals of those and the funerals of gay people, and hold up signs that say things like God hates fags and thank God for dead soldiers. I think that's all you really need to know about them to get an idea of what they're all about. But to end this segment on a positive note, like I said, it was refreshing to hear Nate Phelps, the estranged son of Fred Phelps, speak out, and just realize at least there was one sane and compassionate and humane member of that family. And I think if you want to see the interview with him, you can probably track it down through the Huff Post. There was another story I wanted to do also that I found through the Huffington Post religious section. Actually, now I'm seeing it under the HuffPost politics, but either way, it does tie into the subject of religion. And now I'm reading from the article. Congressman calls evolution lie from pit of hell. Athens, Georgia. Georgia Rep. Paul Brune, Broun, probably Brune, I hope, said in videotaped remarks that evolution, embryology, and the Big Bang Theory are lies straight from the pit of hell. The Republican lawmaker made those comments during a speech September 27th at a sportsman's banquet at Westboro Baptist Church in Hartwell. Brune, a medical doctor, is running for re-election in November, unopposed by Democrats. During the remarks, Brune said that he believes the Earth is about 9,000 years old and that it was made in 6 days. Those beliefs are held by fundamentalist Christians who believe the creation accounts in the Bible are literally true. That's very scary. It makes it all the worse that he's a medical doctor. So how can a medical doctor think, someone who should know, hopefully, something about biology if he's a medical doctor and not just some kind of honorary doctor who holds a doctorate or something. How can you not know something about biology? How can you think that embryology is a quote-unquote lie? And if you did know something about biology, you think you would have some understanding of the basics of evolution. And yet he calls evolution a lie, too. And obviously, he's a young Earth creationist. He believes the Earth is roughly 9,000 years old. Better than 6,000, I guess, that some believe. We know the human species, although the estimates can vary from expert to expert, we know that the human species, Homo sapiens, could be as much as 250,000 years old. So we have a species, our own species, is hundreds of thousands of years old, and yet according to him, the Earth is only 9,000 years old. The math definitely doesn't jibe there. The human species is older than the planet it's standing on by perhaps a couple 100,000 years. I don't know if he's just saying this stuff to pander to his base or what. If that was the case, that would be disgusting too. That means the guy would be willing to lie and bastardize scientific truth for political gain. And on the other hand, if he does actually believe what he's saying, like I said earlier, that's just scary. And how a medical doctor, no less, could believe that, it's unbelievable. As far as evolution goes, as I've said before, we have the fossil record now backed up by DNA evidence. We can look and see genetically how species are related to other species. And embryology, this is concrete science. I don't even see how it makes sense in light of what we know about human anatomy, human gestation, how you could call embryology a lie. Does not make sense. And then, of course, as far as the age of the Earth goes, not only do we know that the human species, as well as I would imagine most other species on the face of the Earth, are far older than his estimate of how old the Earth is. And he's supposed to be a man of science, a doctor. Even though his field isn't geology, you would think he might know the basic facts about geology that even a school child would know, and have some idea about the geological timeline of the planet. How the Earth itself is roughly about 4.5 billion years old. Definitely far surpassing his 9,000 year estimate. And we have to remember that the Bible itself, even if you're a Christian, the Bible doesn't say how old the Earth is. These numbers that young Earth creationists throw about like 6,000, 9,000 years old, referring to the age of the Earth. These are kind of pseudo-scientific estimates made by church fathers over the years, or even some later theologians, quote-unquote theologians, doing things like trying to add up the ages of the figures in the Bible If you have any experience with reading the Bible, or if you went to Sunday school, you probably know that in the Old Testament there's a lot of what they call antediluvian figures before the flood. Um, People with these unreal lifespans. People lived hundreds of years. So they do things like they take all the generations, they take the ages of the antediluvians, etc., and try to add them all up and come up with a estimate for how old the Earth is when the Earth was created. And you can see how that type of process might be flawed. So even if you're a believing Christian and you happen to be listening, don't think that you have to believe those ridiculous figures that you hear these young earth creationists throw around, because even the Bible itself doesn't claim to say exactly how old the earth is. But I just want to include that small story too, because that's one of those jaw-dropping ones that you can't, if you're a rational human being, you can't quite wrap your head around. How can a supposed medical doctor think that things like evolution and embryology are lies from the pit of hell? Never mind thinking that the earth is only 9,000 years old. But I think that's enough of that story as well. If I keep on dwelling on it, my head's going to explode. But I think I'll keep it a relatively short show today, so that will be it. And once again, thanks to everyone for listening. As always, you can like the show on Facebook. You can subscribe or rate the show through iTunes. You can subscribe or rate us through Podbean. And as always, any support is much appreciated. So thank you.